We have our next Patreon question, and this one's from friend of the podcast, David Cabal. Again, Patreon, if you are interested and want to ask some questions, be sure to check out Patreon and give us some crazy questions and stuff like that. We always love answering these. So his question is, David Cabal asks, aside from Transformers, what are other mecha robot series that you would recommend to a fan of Transformers? Now, David Cabal, he asked this actually because he recently discovered and started watching the original 0079 1970s, well, late 70s, early 80s Gundam series. And so he was kind of curious, is there any other, mecha series that you could recommend? So I'm just going to jump in with a few. When you're a Transformer fan, that you're kind of used to one genre of the robot genre from, let's say, Japan, which is, and we discussed this in our Optimus Prime versus Gundam battle. What's it called there?
Death battle.
Death battle
or
video.
death match.
Yeah, death battle video. But so to just repeat myself here for people who didn't watch that one, Transformers falls into the category of super robot genre, which is robots that usually have there's a science kind of behind it, but it's more loose and dry. There's more elaborate transformations, stock footage, which makes because the concept of stock footage would never exist in, let's say, Gundam, because it would be like, well, why aren't they attacking him when he's doing his stock footage attack or transformation, And I don't mean reused footage. That's a different story. That's reusing animation cells. Stock footage in the sense of like long, elaborate transformations. There's, Transformers started to get a science behind it later on in its life, but really it started as a super robot series in the genre in Japan, along with that of Mazinger and stuff like that. So a lot of Transformer fans who really have only dabbled in Transformers are only really used to that kind of storytelling and science. But when you then go into, like, let's say Gundam, then you're doing something that's more of a realistic take on storytelling that just involves robots. It's like watching a war movie, but robots are the tanks. Robots are the tools, they're the guns. So like, to give some, like, I'll go into like some personal suggestions from the Transformer side. If you really enjoy Transformers, some series that I would suggest is look at the Brave saga or the Brave series, which is it's the cousin series of Transformers. After Transformers stopped in Generation 1 in Japan, Takara and Sunrise just kind of were like, hey, why don't we do some other transforming robot series, but that don't have the Transformer title on it, because it's kind of played out at this point. This was like after Transformers Zone, and they were just like, we got to do something fresh. So they took a whole bunch of Transformer ideas, designs, and stories and just slapped a new name on it. And that's where we got X-Kaiser and Firebird and Jay Decker and Dagon, and I could go on, which leads all the way to Gao Geiger. Gao Geiger probably being the best one of the bunch.
Definitely.
If I had to suggest one, watch Gao Geiger. If you appreciate Transformers, Gao Geiger is not only going to be right up your alley, but it's going to open the door to you for a lot of Japanese stuff afterwards. And I heavily suggest watching it in Japanese with subtitles. There is a dub kicking around, but it just doesn't do it justice. I no offense to the people who worked on the dub, Erica, Schrongler, and all of them. It just doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't. I think that the Japanese dub and the voice actors, like the voice of Guy is the voice of Joe
Higashi.
Joe Higashi from Fatal Fury and King of
Zelda.
Fighters. Yeah,
Link
from Legend of Zelda. He's just
anytime you hear Link going,
it's him.
So this guy's just yelling. That's his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and he's exactly, and it's just no offense to the voice actors they hired for the dub, but it just isn't there. So Gao Geiger, that's one I heavily suggest if you're a Transformer fan. If you enjoy Brave stuff after that, I dip into Jay Decker. It's a little more lighthearted. Dagon is good. Might Gain. A lot of they're all really good, the Brave series is, but I think that just Gao Geiger is just above and beyond just Mecha in general, let alone just the Brave series is. Again, let's go into Gundam. Gundam, a lot of people are always like, overwhelmed. Where do I start with Gundam? I want to get into Gundam and stuff. Gundam is a lot like Transformers, where you have like an ongoing G1 continuity, and then you have all the other continuity spin-off stuff that
Yeah,
isn't
pretty
related
much.
to it. Gundam is the same thing. Gundam has its UC Century, which is their G1 continuity, if you will, and then it has all their other Century versions. You have like, After Colony, which is their, let's call it their Armada universe, which is what the
Yeah.
Gundam Wing series was from. And then you have their EX continuity, which is Gundam X, which is like, I don't know, let's say the animated continuity. Like they have their own separate universes. But I always tell people, if you really want to go start with the nitty gritty, watch the original Gundam 0079 movies, not the TV series, the movies, because even the creator of Gundam, Tomino, said that like that's the definitive version to watch, essentially, because the original Gundam series in its first run unfortunately got canceled, and because it got canceled, they had to rush quickly to finish the story, and instead of having 52 episodes, I believe they only had 38, I believe it was. And so they had to rush it, and then it wasn't his vision that he really wanted to do, Tomino. So when when Gundam finally got legs again and they did the movies, they took some footage, a lot of footage from the TV series, but put a whole lot of new footage, cleaned up the look of it. This was like 3 years later, so the animation was a little better.
It doesn't. I don't know. When I watch it, I can't tell the difference between the actual TV show and the new footage.
Because it was cleaned up. That's why it was done very well, that you won't even be able to tell the difference between the two. And again, they picked and choose the parts that made a coherent story, so you can't even tell like this is like episodes that have been cut up. It's so I would suggest watch those original Gundam movies. And then that gives you if you have the patience to watch dated Generation 1 episodes, you'll have the patience for Gundam. And then if you enjoy Gundam, the original doubles, it'll give you an idea of what you're dealing with, because this is a real robot genre. There's death, people die. It's heavily human-centric. It's about, it's World War II done with space robots. That's the best way to put it. So if you enjoy that, then afterwards, there's just so much you could jump from there. 8th MS, 0083, which is a personal favorite of me and Wendell here. And then 0080, which is very heart-wrenching, as another series. There's so much that you could go from that point, and it's all chronological, and there's an ongoing story. And then afterwards, just like if you enjoy Generation 1 and you watched all that stuff, then you could jump into the spin-off stuff. Gundam Wing has always been a lot of people's first Gundam series because it was available on television. But there's so much. Like that, Gundam is one, and I'm a big Gundam fan, and there's a lot to enjoy, but those are just a few. Like 0083 is my personal favorite, but I find that you don't start with it because you need to know the context of that ongoing story. In the same way that, you could jump into Beast Wars without watching G1, but it sure helps to know who that Starscream character is.
Once you hit season 2, you're gonna be like, what?
Yeah, exactly. like the impact of Optimus Prime dying in season 2 of Beast Wars is not as important if you don't know who Optimus Prime is. You know, so it's the same thing where 0083 is one of those series that, you could watch it without knowing it, but it sure helps to watch the old stuff first, like specifically the 3 movies before, to give you context, and then you really understand the stakes and everything, and those characters. Even though it doesn't involve those original characters, it puts you in that world. Same thing like Beast Wars. It doesn't involve the original G1 characters, but it's set in that world, in that timeline. To go into like other ones, like a lot of people, and this is a controversial one, Evangelion. Evangelion is a lot of like the Transformers Prime of the Mecha series, where had a lot of potential. I love Eva, had unique designs, great soundtrack. I like one thing I can't never take away from Eva. Eva always had an amazing soundtrack, whether it be the intros, the outros, or the background music. Always knocked it out of the park. But from a writing standpoint, I find it kind of shits the bed by the time it gets halfway. Yeah, exactly. And it also, that stems from the creator's problems, because he was going through a depression, and he kind of let that show in his stuff, unfortunately. A lot of people who love Ava, and this I could.
You're gonna get into this,
yeah,
or you're just gonna keep it pure.
I'll keep it pure, because Wendell knows what I'm talking about. I'll try to keep it pure. Let's put it this way.
I was just gonna say, just don't bother.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, just skip over it.
I'll just say this: a lot of people that enjoy Ava, usually have never seen Gundam, and I find that a lot of people who really enjoy Ava after they've seen Gundam, then they look back and go, oh, I don't know why I enjoyed Ava now. Like they start to understand, they start to understand like, oh, okay, I see where Ava might have been pulling from. And then it's not so special anymore. And that's why I think Ava didn't resonate with me, because I saw Gundam long before I saw Evangelion.
Yeah, exactly. Same here.
And so going into it was kind of like, it's like Amuro is way better than Shinji, and like Amuro is just like bootleg Shinji, like it's just, and Shinji just.
You mean Shinji is bootleg Amuro?
Yeah, excuse me, yeah, and he's just not doing a really good job either. Get in the mecha, Shinji, but I don't wanna, Anyways, the point is that I wouldn't.
Other shows I want to bring up.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if you mentioned it. Machine Robo.
Oh yeah, well, Machine Robo again leans more on.
If you want the other side of
the
Transformer.
Other side. If you like more of that Transformer kind of stuff, Machine Robo. You have Revenge of Kronos, which was Series 1, and then Battle Hackers, which is Series 2. Revenge of Kronos, I believe you could find online very easily because the DVDs have been long out of print and it's very tough to find. I think it's called Discotech. It's like a weird. It was a weird company. Sculpture Soft was the people who subtitled it, and I think Discotech was the DVD company that distributed it. But those are long out of print. But I think you could still find the episodes online because some people just upload. Certain things they hit a licensing, hole, and then you could upload them, and YouTube just doesn't care. So Machine Robo, that's a really good one. Again,
no one's telling YouTube to take it down because they own it.
Yeah, exactly. If it's one of those things that if you really enjoyed those GoBot designs, or you had GoBot toys as a kid but didn't like the cartoon, here's a way to watch GoBots that didn't suck. You're gonna look at Fightor and go, oh, Fightor's kind of cool now, or oh, Screwhead is kind of cool now because he's not called Screwhead. So like a lot of those GoBot designs, but made a lot more badass and cool. I actually did a panel at TFCon, like showing the differences between the two and how much people missed out on Machine. I mean, Machine Robo came out in like '86, so it's an older series, but it was it's anime in '86, which still looks very good for its time. Yeah. So really good stuff, and I believe
has that nice aesthetic.
I believe one of the animation directors was the guys behind Bubblegum Crisis. So you also get some really good fight scenes. Like there's really good, in between choreography, I guess is the best way to put it. So just a lot of really good looking stuff there in general, just like with Rom Stoll, and just because he uses more of a kung fu kind of fighting style. So really, again, for its time, really well animated. I'm trying to think of another one that's more on the super robot side of things, because there's so many. Like I have personal favorites, but it's just like, like I love Daimos, but I don't want to suggest it to people because it's more of a nostalgic reason why I love Daimos. But I mean, if I would say to people like, watch the new Getter series. They did Steel Jeeg. The new one, it's Kojin Jeeg, but the new version, New Jeeg, which is, again, it's a super robot series, but done with modern animation. You could watch it without watching the old material and still enjoy it. There's a lot of those out there that are really good. Steel Jeeg is one I personally enjoy, and if you watch Steel Jeeg, you're going to be like, huh, so that's where Wheeljack got his design from. Like there's a lot of things that if you watch it, you start seeing where Transformers kind of pulled their inspiration in a lot of different areas.
Yeah. I would say maybe it's Mecha. It's more so Mecha. Maybe Macross Plus.
Well, Macross in general. Oh boy, I'm sorry for not mentioning it.
That's a big dive. That's a really big dive.
If I would suggest where to start, if you don't have time, just watch Macross. Do You Remember Love?
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably, and this is coming from me, one of my favorite animated movies of all time, just as in general. Just an incredibly animated movie in 1986. It's a movie compilation pretty much explaining the first half of the Super Dimension Macross TV series. And it does an incredible job. It's all brand new animation. It clearly people lost sleep animating this thing because it looked for 1986. It is spectacular, amazing soundtrack, amazing music. Macross is always known for its music, so that's another thing too. Great story, great animation, great character design, great characters, great mecha designs. You get to see where Jetfire came from. And because the movie not movie continuity, but the movie compilation version did a little few design twists and turns to make movie exclusive mecha, you actually get a red colored Skull Leader in the movie. So you actually get an almost near perfect Jetfire in this in the proper colors instead of the Roy Fokker black colors, which are in the movie too. But you'll see what I mean if you go and watch it. You'll be like, oh, hey, there's Jetfire. And you'll be like, yep, and he's awesome. A lot of that. So, yeah, Macross, again, like you said, Macross Plus, which is a sequel series to it. There's a few sequels to the original Macross series. Again, it's just like Gundam, has its own continuity that just keeps marching forward. And you could watch the other stuff individually, but it doesn't hurt to go to the beginning to get context, because the idea of the Zentradi and Ming Mei, they come up a lot when it comes to the history of Macross, even when you look at, let's say, Macross Plus and stuff, and you go, hey, what's that big robot in the background in the city that's just kind of rusted over there? It's, it all comes from the old stories and everything. So Macross and all their different series is Macross 7, Macross Frontier, Macross 2, which is kind of its own spin-off series, another good one. But yeah, a lot of really good stuff there also. I'm trying to think, because I want to think of some obscure ones that I really enjoy. If you want to, this is a funny one.
I don't think we got to say Pat Labor, maybe.
No,
but
I
don't.
Pat Labor, we haven't. Pat Labor is also, again, if you're into that real robot genre, it's picture humans, but robots are they use robots for the police force, and the robots look a lot like GMs from Gundam. So and
they got little bunny ears on them.
And they have movies, they have TV series, so it's
and they're still kicking around. They're still doing newer stuff too.
Yeah, still a lot of stuff coming out from that. I was gonna go into some of the more obscure stuff. So if you want to see where the creator of Pokemon got his ideas from, watch Play-Res Sanshiro. As in P-L-A, Res, as in W-R-E-S. It's, Japanese, how they like to fuse things together, like Pokemon is Pocket Monster fused together. Mm-hmm. Play-Res is Playful Wrestlers Sanshiro. So Play-Res Sanshiro, it's a mecha series about kids who make little robots that battle each other and have AI and sentience and stuff. And literally, and this was made in 83. It's the prototype to Pokemon and Metabots and everything like that. And really cool robot designs in it. A lot of really cool robot designs, really good music. But again, it's a little older, but it really gives you a good idea. And to this day, they still make the Japanese like to make new toys of old product. They still make stuff of Play-Res Sanshiro because it's very important to Japan's history of robot stuff. There's another another mecha show, Eureka 7. I remember that was the big thing at the time. That was the big new mecha show that everyone should watch at the time. So I'm gonna throw that into the another good one
into the pile.
Is Dragonar. Dragonar is
okay. Nice,
Dragonar was from the creators of Gundam. At one point, they were kind of going hey, why don't we do a mecha series that might be a prequel to Gundam? And then in the development of it, it just ended up not being that, and it just became its own thing. And Dragonar was just one of those series that was just hey, we're going to have 3 Gundams in one. And this is way before Gundam Wing. And it's it's going to be 3 main robots, and they're each, one's a Japanese guy, one's a black guy, one's a British guy. And it was just amazing music, amazing mecha designs, a lot of the same tropes that are found in Gundam. There's that, there's the Char-like character and stuff like that, but another very well done series which has very good battles, character development, stories. You can't go wrong with Japanese animation. And if you're a Transformer fan that really only has been dabbling in Transformers, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. That's why I always say go to Gao Geiger, have your mind blown, and then you're going to then be open to this giant world of Japanese robots.
And honestly with all these shows, don't be intimidated by the length of the shows. I mean, I think sometimes some people see 50 episodes, 100 and something, and yet you forget that you're downing a bunch of episodes of American TV, but they're just broken up into seasons, and you're not looking at it as one whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, like
especially
like something lasts 5 seasons, 20 something episodes. I mean, come on, do the math. Like,
and
it's
especially
not that difficult.
the average anime episode is 21 minutes. The average anime intro and outro is 1 minute 30 seconds. So you right away, if you skip the intro and outro, which how dare you, but if you do, you cut out 3 minutes right there. So the average anime episode is about 18 minutes. So you could blaze through, if you're really enjoying yourself, you could blaze through a lot of anime very easily if it's a 52 episode series. You'd be surprised how many people I talk to that when they go, hey, recommend a new series to me, and I'll be like, oh, watch this. And then when they get back to me like a week later, they've like watched it all easily. And I'll be like, wow, okay. So
should we give them Gunbuster as well as homework?
Gunbuster is another one of those quintessential ones. Gunbuster was done by the studio that would go on to do Evangelion and would go on to do a lot of
Gainax.
Gainax Studios, which is a staple in the mecha robot community in terms of like studios and everything. But Gunbuster was one of those quintessential ones. It actually gave to us what we refer to today as the Gainax bounce, which was, it's existed before in anime, but Gainax perfected it, which is female characters that sometimes when they move, the breast might move a little bit more than normal. So, but Gainax gave us Gunbuster, which again is another one of those, this is a staple mecha series. And again, you watch Gunbuster and then you watch Ava and you'll be like, meh, there's a lot of Ava is from Gunbuster. That's like specifically Asuka and Rei. So like you're going to see it in 2 characters in that, but it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people say that even the main character from Gunbuster is just a female Shinji, but that's another story. So I don't want to ruin that for them. Oh, now I'm not going to look at her the same again. But it's just, it's another one of those, like, quintessential, like, if you want to, like, I always say, like, the staples of mecha in anime is Mazinger Z, which started it all in a lot of ways, started the piloted robot genre. Then you move forward to Raiden. Raiden was the first ever transforming robot that transforms into something else. So he transformed into like a flying bird kind of thing from a giant robot. You move forward, and then you get to Gundam, which was the first time the human characters were almost more important than the robot itself. And it started the real robot genre as a result of that, where it became more of a science fiction show and everything. You then move forward more, and you get into, again, the staples of Gunbuster. Then you get into Patlabor, you get into Macross, you get into the Brave series, you get into Evangelion, which again, I have my opinions, but to a lot of people it was very important and influential. And then you jump into even to the likes of newer stuff like Gurren Lagann, which is, again, it's for a lot of newer mecha fans, it's really, if you're an older fan, it's not really anything new to you, but for a lot of newer fans, it was very important to them for getting into mecha, because again, newer animation, it's easier for them to swallow. And again, it also had fan service, which also for a lot of people,
heavy fan service,
which is, again, makes it easier for them to swallow. And again,
it was even funnier, is like a friend of mine was saying, a friend of ours actually was saying, oh, there's no real fan service. Like, you're lying to yourself. You don't know what you're talking about.
If you want fan service and robots, you go watch Goldenar. That's all. I was gonna be Godnar. That is fan service to the extreme with giant robot designs that are pretty awesome. So if you want a combination of that, that's another one you could see. Definitely something Sakamoto probably enjoyed in the past, if I had to pick one. But either way. I know I'm forgetting stuff, but I think that's
good for now.
I think that's good for now. That'll be your homework for now. If there's anything we're forgetting, definitely post it in the comments below, and we'll definitely let us know if we like, oh man, totally forgot that. But that's definitely it. Anyways, thanks for the question, David Cabal. You have some homework now after Gundam, and you can watch all of those.